sitting there tied up. Bullets were he said that was the first time in his life that he really appreciated the meaning of ricochet, when bullets ricochet. He said because bullets were all over the place around him, and not one bullet touched him. Takoda wasn't killed, but 3 of his men were killed. That was the name of the man that was shaving. His name was Takoda. He died in the Civil War. He died on the Nigerian side, the war front. Very brave man. 3 of his men were killed. The 3 men that were guarding my father, or keeping my father in custody there, were also killed. But Takoda wasn't killed, and my father not a bullet. Then when that happened, then Gawan now came in, and saluted my father and said, "Sir, Bonny Camp is loyal to the government." So my dad said, "What is going on?" He said, "Well, all kinds of things are happening. There's an attempted coup, but we've got it under control. But this part of the country, particularly Bonny Camp, is loyal to the government." And he said, well, he now asked him for a gun. He said, "Look, where am I to go now?" And of course, he said, "Well, can you use a gun?" He said, "Yes, of course." So he gave him a gun, and they kept him in the boys' quarter at Bonny Camp. And that's where he was, for a few days. And what happened next? Because this is very, very interesting. Because we didn't know where he was. We assumed, at least my mother and everybody assumed he was dead. I was holding on to that gentleman's promise that he wasn't dead. But we were in Ibadan. We were shifted to my uncle's house. But he was underground. And he didn't call us for a few days. Eventually, when he did call, he said he's alive, but he couldn't tell us where he was. He refused to tell us where he was, but he's safe.
When did the old man pass away?
1995, 10 years ago, this year.
Yeah. Before that time, what was the relationship with him like? And the rest of your siblings?
Mine. Very, very close. I was very close to my father particularly. Many felt that, within the family, felt that he pampered me a lot. My father was a very tough man, very hard man. But he did pamper me a lot. But the reason he pampered me was because I always excelled in school. Because, if you don't do well in school, then forget it. He has no time for you. But I had to ensure that at every stage of my schooling that I did well. I came top or second or at the very least third, wherever I was, whatever I was doing. And even though I played a lot, and believe me, I really played, because I think that's also important. You have to learn the lessons of life when you're young. I played more than anybody else in my family. But at the same time, I took my schooling, my work very, very seriously.
So is it okay to say you were a spoiled brat?
I wouldn't say that at all. No, because a spoiled brat has connotations which I wouldn't accept. Because it was obvious I wasn't a spoiled brat. You know why? Because everything that I had and I did, I earned it by doing well at school. Spoiled brats do not excel. What they do usually, they just take and give nothing back. And it was not easy for me as a young man from the age of about 9, going to private school in England as a black person. Some of their top elite schools where only white Anglo-Saxon Protestants go. I went to Homewood House and Harrow School. Throughout that whole private school system in England, which is very elitist, you have a lot of racism there. It's a completely different culture, different way of life. So I had to learn to box, I had to learn karate, and I was very violent. And I even joined the, this army in the school, they have this cadet corps. And all my life, throughout that period, after that thing happened in January 66, it had a profound effect on me. My whole mission in life was to join the military. Because I purpose that never will I allow a situation where armed men will ever come and violate my family or in any way intimidate us again. So my whole purpose was and the school I went to in England was basically a school that trained, British elites for the military and for Oxford and Cambridge University. That's what Harrow School was for. You either go into politics and become an MP and go into the cabinet, or having been at Oxbridge, or you go to one of the top regiments as an elite officer. And I wanted to join the British Army on a short-term commission. I applied to Sandhurst. I got a place. My father called a family meeting and tore up the whole thing. I said, this boy wants to kill me. But my ambition was to join the British Army, short-term commission, then come back to Nigeria and join the Nigerian military at a higher rank, and then take it from there. That's all I ever wanted to do in life.
What about your mother? What kind of relationship?
Very close again. I was equally blessed. My mother was I was very close to my mother. My mother understood. Honestly, like I said, I was equally blessed. And I'm not just saying this. I was probably the closest to both. I was very, very close to both my parents because they stood by me through thick and thin. And there's nothing, I look back on my life, there's nothing I ever wanted that perhaps was good for me, some not even so good for me, that I didn't get from them. Even where it was difficult, even where, for example, I break rules in school and I beat up the prefect for saying you're a nigger. We're not like the Ghanaians, you know. I'm careful about it. My wife is from Ghana, but the Ghanaian boys there, if the white boys say, you're a nigger, you know, they say, oh, that's all right, I speak good English anyway, you know, so it doesn't matter. But we Nigerians, okay, what, you come here, paga. That kind of, it was difficult, it was tough, you know.
I'm sure Charlie Boy knows it.
He does. I was going to say, you know all about that. You know, then, you know, cold showers in the morning for being late for breakfast, all that kind of thing. And like I said, you know, after I was boxing for my school, and I never lost a fight, you know. I was playing rugby for my school, I played rugby for my university, I went to London and then I went to Cambridge, you know, and you know what it's like.
You mentioned Cambridge. It's like Cambridge almost like became a tradition in your family, 3 generations.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
4 generations.
Yes, indeed. My grandfather was at Cambridge, then my father also, and my older brother too. And they all went to, my grandfather went to Sydney Sussex College. And interestingly, that's why Rotimi Williams went there later, because my grandfather had been there. And then my father was at Downing College, my brother was at Downing College. But I went to Pembroke, because I didn't want to go to all those colleges that my lineage had been to. So again, I was a little bit different in that respect. So my daughter's preparing to go to one of the colleges now too, my oldest daughter.
You have the 4th generation.
By the grace of God. Though she's rebelling, she said she doesn't want to go there, so there's a struggle right now. She wants to go to somewhere else.
Now,
come back.
As a teenager, what kind of a teenager were you? Were you troublesome?
Very troublesome. Very troublesome.
Tell us some of the troubles.
What? Oh, I tell you, we'll be here till tomorrow. Very troublesome, very naughty boy. You know, and I think what really saved me was the fact that every holiday, 3 holidays a year, we'll come back to Nigeria. This was, of course, you know, after the Civil War, because during the time of the Civil War, we didn't come back. We were in exile. We were away. And, you know, but after we, you know, started coming back to Nigeria, 3 times a year, we'll come back for holidays. And that really helped me a lot, because I really identified with my Nigerian friends and colleagues, most of whom were also at school in England, but would also come back and would hang out together when we were here. And we were always very proud of being Nigerian, you know. And I remember we used to terrorize the white boys at Ikoyi Club and Apapa Club. We used to, anything we faced over there, we'll come back and say, okay, when we get there, we'll show them. We'll go and do roadblocks at Apapa Club just there by the flag by his house, just up here. I go to Ikoyi Club and deal with these own guys. So yeah, now in our country, you know, that kind of thing. And it was fun, and it was a very, very exciting period for me. But then you now go back to school, you face all the complications of a British public school, you know, all the complexities of that situation, and what they teach you in Britain, because people say, oh, Ajebota, but they don't understand the British training. I'm talking about the private schools, not the grammar schools and comprehensive schools. What they teach you there is to be very pleasant and charming and very polite, but to be extremely hard. I mean, you know this, to be extremely hard under that. So if you think is an Ajebota, you can get up and give him a slap and he'll keep quiet. You are joking. They treat them the opposite. As a matter,
so you're a mixture of Ajebo and Ajebo.
That's what they say.
What I seem to gather is that you have some sort of, is it you know, lack of love, let me put it that way. I'm trying to put it that nicely.
Diplomatically.
For white people.
Not at all.
Are you racist?
Not at all. Actually, if I give that impression, let me correct that. Not at all. As a matter of fact, I'm something of an Anglophile. In other words, I have a really soft spot for the British. Because I was trained there, I was part of them for so long, and I have a home there up until today. And so, you know, but at the same time, you have to understand that you cannot but identify with your own country first. And you must also understand the history of the British and the history of the West and the kind of things they've done in the past. You cannot divorce that, you know, from however you might feel about them. And in my view, that, you know, a lot of the problems that we have in this country today is actually foisted upon us by the very cavalier attitude of the British colonial masters. And up till today, when you look at the complexities of globalization, and you look at, I mean, Tony Blair is doing a great job, the Africa Commission report, but when you look at the history and you look at what they're doing to us in Africa, or what they did to us, military governments which they encouraged to come in order to fight, you can't but sit back and say, listen, you've got to factor that into everything, no matter how close you might feel to these guys. And you must deal with them on an equal level, equal footing. Let them know that if they feel they're educated, you are also educated. Listen, the first Nigerian person that was a lawyer was in 1888. So who are these people to tell us anything? And before then we had our own culture. But what happened is, when he said I had to go to do, I said, well, okay, fine. I'll take out a year and not do anything, just travel around the world. And then I'll go and do what you want me to do. And I said, I'm not going to go to Cambridge. Since you say I must do, let me go to where I want. I wanted to be in London, where all my friends were. And I wasn't living on campus in London. I had my own apartment there, which was fun. And I was there with all my Nigerian friends and English friends. And it was great fun. When I finished my first year, and I went up to Cambridge and had more fun up there, But it's not as if he imposed anything on me, because really, what is a degree other than the fact that it's a discipline? You're there simply to learn the discipline of being able to get that spali, as we call it in Yoruba land. You don't have to follow up on what it is that you studied at university. But law is a very versatile degree, which was my father's point. You can have that level of versatility once and he was proved right, because like I said, I came out, I did quite well in practice for some time, and then when I felt that I didn't want to practice anymore, I didn't need to practice. I had achieved what I wanted to achieve by being a partner in our law firm. And I was saying earlier that had it not been for him, I may not have done law, but I think in retrospect it was the right thing for me to do.
Now, I'm sure a lot of teenagers out there, been through some crisis, like yours truly. We have dark years, go through, because of our understanding at the time of situations and stuff like that. Maybe because of friends, influences of friends and so on. What period in your life would you consider dark years?
Well, quite a number.
Actually flew
really bad. Quite a number. But first of all, we need to make a general point. I should make a general point that it's always very difficult for somebody that has that kind of background, that kind of training, to come back and fit and flow in the Nigerian system, because there's a lot of resentment that you meet here when you get here from all kinds of people for all kinds of reasons. That we were serving the father, now we want us to serve these ajebota, that kind of resentment and sometimes even envy. So you have that set of problems. Then of course the problem of the parents themselves, assuming that you come back and do things their way, trying to control every little thing, which is a Nigerian problem really. You must do like this, do like that, and do it my way. And so you have to deal with that also. Then there's also the crisis of confidence in yourself, that look, should I stay here? Can I really make it here? This is a very complicated place. The people don't really like me, they resent me, they don't like my father, they don't like what I stand for. The values that I've been trained to appreciate don't seem to be flourishing very much here. Let me go back. And most of my colleagues that were at school with me in England, Nigerians, went back to America or to the UK and said, look, they don't want to have anything to do with Nigeria. But I said no. I decided in my mind that no matter what I'm going to face in this, I'll stay here. And then you begin the process. I never really had any problems up until the time that I left law, and I now went into politics. And what happened then was that it was in 1980, late 80s. I was quite active in setting up various clubs, September Club, and I got involved in a group called the NNC, which was the largest political association at the time, where most of the bigwigs, Chief Umayan was the chairman, a very good man, a great man. He was our chairman. Alhaji Shinkafi was there, the former head of NSO, Adamuchi Roma. All the biggest politicians of the day were there. And my father told me, don't go into this thing. These guys, you can't do it. Just stay out of it. I said, no, that's what I want to do. So I went into it. And it was a very challenging period because what I had to do was leave everything and